and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Brian Twining, we did it. We survived the offseason. We survived the lead up. It is officially Daytona 500 time. We were recording this Friday evening. The duels are done. Qualifying is done. We are ready to go green. So hopefully you are checking this out. If you are new to the channel, we are here twice a week with your betting and DFS picks. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell notification so you know when new content pops up. And if you're enjoying what we're doing, please smash that thumbs up. Brian Twining, are you ready for the Daytona 500?
I am more than ready for the Daytona 500. And just like I showed you before recording, we have a new guest to the show. His name is just going to be NASCAR Man, shopping at a secondhand clothes store with my wife today in Vegas. And of course, I run by this 2002 Daytona 500 collectible bobblehead that, of course, had to come home with me. And he's going to become the mascot of the Las Vegas area recording studio, as I'll call it. So I'm excited to get into this season. I have never been this excited for any NASCAR race in my life.
And of course, you find a Daytona 500.
Exactly.
Not an auto club or Las Vegas or anything. So we're going to jump in. We're going to run through pricing over on DraftKings. We're going to give you some thoughts. We're going to give you some plays. We're going to make a lineup or two. We'll review our betting card, give you any updates with now that qualifying is in the book, how the lines moved, who's short, who's long, and is there still value to be had? So let's not waste any more time. It's NASCAR season. Let's dive in. Chase Elliott is your favorite at 10-4, starting 8th, Denny Hamlin. 10-3 at 18th, Ryan Blaney starting 7th at 10-1, and Joey Logano starting 3rd at 10K flat. The 10K range is a little intense. Obviously, this is overall just a race where don't be afraid to leave money on the table. Don't be afraid to cut off certain sections if you feel like there's no value or potential. Obviously, all these guys are incredible drivers, but Daytona is crazy. There's going to be lots of madness. There's going to be lots of carnage, and paying up for guys who may or may not finish the race might not make a lot of sense. So it really is an interesting range. I guess if you are paying up, Brian, is there a name in this range that you want to target?
I mean, it's honestly, I think you got to eat the chalk if you're going to go with any of these guys at the top of your board and take Denny Hamlin starting 18th, just with the expectation. I mean, he's among the favorites to win the race. It's him, Blaney, and Elliott all tied with similar odds. And starting 18th, you're going to get all those placement points. And I mean, we've seen it time and time again at super speedways. Guys that start, from that 10 to 20 range seem to kind of be the movers towards the end. So, I mean, for me, he's the one that makes the most sense. And ironically, he's the safest play, if there is such a thing, at a super speedway here, just because he's starting in the middle, not at the front.
Yeah, I like Hamlin quite a bit. I also like Ryan Blaney. We both really like him for the race and potential to win.
Yeah.
Looking at last year, the top 4 scorers, 3 of them started in the 30s, or it was Eric Almirola starting 38th, David Reagan starting 34th. Bubba was 3rd, starting 16th, and then Daniel Hemrick 33rd. But right behind him, Austin Cindric obviously won the race, started 5th. Ryan Blaney started 7th. Sound familiar? Ended up finishing 4th. And then Kyle Busch started 10th, ended up finishing 6th. So, you don't necessarily have to pick people starting in the back, but there's definitely a lot more room for upside, a lot more room for potential. Traditionally, that's where value is found. So we'll dive into the 9K range, where I think there is a lot of interesting names. Kyle Larson starting 2nd. William Byron starting 21st at 9,700, I think will be interesting. Probably the most popular guy of this range will be Kyle Busch starting 36th at 9,600. He's really tempting. He's got obviously a ton of upside. But if you want to be different, especially in tournaments, not picking him is easy way to differentiate yourself.
I also think it'll be interesting to see how they recover after the wreck that he was involved in during the duel, like, do they have to go to a backup car potentially, or, maybe change out a part that requires them to,
And
you
maybe
know,
that's why they're starting 36th.
yeah, like,
But at least
I'd
at
be
least
worried about that.
yeah, for sure. But at least with this, it's not like they're starting 18th and now they have to go to the back.
Very true.
They're starting 36, so but yeah, he's going to be incredibly popular and obviously has a good track record here, but he's an easy guy for me to fade if I want to be a little bit different,
Oh
if I want to
yeah.
be a little bit unique. Obviously, if you're playing cash and you want to be safe, makes a ton of sense, but anything tournament-wise, he's an easy fade. Bubba Wallace starting 15th. Like, you could go to Bubba at 15th, you could go up to Byron at 9,700. I think those are going to be easy pivots, and you're still having a lot of upside, a lot of potential. Both those guys can win races. And then
I think
beyond there, go ahead.
I was just going to say about William Byron too. Like, make sure you keep note of the fact that he was leading the pack during the duel until all the Chevys pitted, and then they fell behind the Toyotas and the Fords. But that entire duration, William Byron was the leader of the Chevy pack the
Yep.
entire race. So he clearly has speed. This dude has performed extremely well at these tracks, just with some extremely bad luck. So he's also a guy, we talked about this at the end of last year. He was the ultimate feast or famine driver. When he did good, he finished inside the top 5. And when he sucked really bad. So
Yep.
Starting 21st, 9,700, I wouldn't even blame people going to him as their first guy on their lineup.
Yeah, I love the idea of starting with him and Ross Chastain. Chastain last year at super speedways was actually really awesome. His 2 worst performances came at Daytona because of accidents.
Of course.
Won at Talladega, had another top 5 performance at Talladega, was really good at Atlanta. So he's not bad at super speedways. He just had some issues at Daytona that might throw up some people off the scent. Obviously, I'm wearing a Trackhouse hat, so you can take my words for what they're worth. But I'm a big fan of his this week. Starting 23rd, I think he makes a hell of a lot of sense. And then
Definitely
Tyler Reddick rounds out the 9K group. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Kyle Busch in Tyler Reddick's old ride. Tyler Reddick didn't really have a lot of success here, but new car, new team. How does that impact, his potential? Didn't do great in the duels, kind of moved backwards a little bit. You don't want to necessarily bump a guy way up or way down because of what we saw in the duels, but when that backs up something that we had previously thought, expectations, that kind of stuff, it's always a good data point just to have as we kind of figure this out. So Kyle Busch, easy fade if you want to be if you don't want to be super chalky. Brian and I are both on William Byron. Brian and I are both on Ross Chastain, and I think Bubba Wallace makes a lot of sense.
I was just gonna say Bubba is like he's
yeah,
tremendous at super speedways. So I mean,
like a little Byron, Bubba, Chastain trio to start, and then just figuring out your other 3 spots. Sounds like a great way to at least get one lineup going.
We might have to make a couple lineups because that sounds like a very enticing beginning.
Yes. Let's dive into the 8K range. Brad Keselowski starting 10th, 8,800. Christopher Bell looked really good. Didn't have a ton of success last year at super speedways. Will be interesting to see how he performs. Obviously qualified well. Won 2 years ago in the old car. Am I remembering that right? Or am I misremembering? What did he win?
I don't think he won
the road course, right? The
Daytona
Daytona
road. He won the Daytona road course.
That's why. Truex starting 16th, obviously did much better in the new ride in super speedways. Traditionally not a great performer at those courses. Austin Cindric qualified well at 6th. Happy to have the outright locked in. Not sure how I feel about him as a DraftKings play. Austin Dillon, I think, will be another incredibly popular selection. 8K, starting 27th. It's going to be really easy to click his name.
Oh, yeah. Dillon, honestly, we'll see later when we talk about betting, but he's another guy who kind of flies under the radar in terms of his skill level at super speedways. And with him starting 27th, there's going to be a lot of people that have him in lineups. So if you're playing in GPPs, like, you're probably going to want to skip over him, just thinking that he's probably going to be around that 25 to 30% ownership range, I would think, in my opinion, just because of the starting spot.
Yeah, he feels like a guy who will be easy, like I said, easy click, fits in a lot of lineups if you want to
Yeah.
go stars and scrubs, if you want to go more balanced. Like there's so many ways to build him in. It's also really interesting. There will be some guys that we like, but are really more betting options, and then
Yep.
other guys that we're not betting, but really make sense for DraftKings plays. So picking and choosing your spots, I think, makes a lot of sense. Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick, as we kind of roll into the 7K range, starting 13th. Jimmy Johnson, starting 39th, I think could be an easy click, especially for people that have been doing the NASCAR thing for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really want to get there, but it is interesting. Alex Bowman, obviously on the pole, starting 70 at 7,500, probably an easy fade at this point. I guess of the rest of the 7K range. So Chase Briscoe starting 30th, Daniel Suarez 24th. Our guy Chris Buescher starting starting 9th at 7,100. If you're getting into the 7K range, it's a bunch of names. I don't know that any of them are really jumping out as screaming values or people that I want to use.
Yeah, I feel like obviously, I mean, this has been a trend the last couple of years, but Chris Buescher at super speedways is somebody I'll always attack in the betting market. But when he's continuously qualifying where he is at these spots, like even last year, we faded him in the Daytona 500 in DK because he started in the second row, and that's just not a spot you want a guy who, I mean, he's either going to finish inside the top 5 or he's going to wreck out. So getting that 9th place starting spot, I don't really like him. I think Chase Briscoe has a chance to surprise some people. I mean, we talked about it on our season-long prop show. Briscoe is somebody for me that I love coming into this year with the potential of winning the championship at the end of the year. Stewart Haas Racing, we saw it. Eric Almirola won the duel. Kevin Harvick looked a lot faster than what we had seen last year. Ryan Preece, his teammate, who's a little bit further down the board here, he performed extremely well in his duel. And I just think this team overall, and the Fords in general, we saw it, they seem to have some legit speed at Daytona and possibly at super speedways this year, and they work well together. So I think Briscoe starting 30th at 7,400 is somebody who will be medium owned. I don't think he's going to be like an Austin Dillon who is at 8K.
And I think that's an easy pivot, right? You save what, $600.
Yep.
You get 3 extra spots, and you get off of some ownership. I think it's an easy switch, and obviously
because Briscoe doesn't have the success,
right? He doesn't have the
Dillon
track
does.
record. He doesn't have all the history. No, not touching Ricky Stenhouse. I'm not letting you put him in our lineup. I'm not letting you do it. If you want to put him in yours, go for it. The next range I think is fun. I think Ryan Preece obviously starting 20th, an interesting name. His betting odds have gotten to a much more palatable spot. Eric Jones starting 25th, a king of super speedway racing. Will be an easy click and one I'm not going to fight anybody on. Michael McDowell starting 11th, starting a little bit farther ahead than probably is a lot of people are going to be comfortable with, but a guy who does so well here, did well at the duels, 6,500. I'm not going to go overweight on him, but I will have some exposure to him in my lineups.
Michael McDowell is quite possibly the most consistent super speedway driver we have in the Cup Series right now. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily winning every single race, but in terms of finishing near the front, finishing inside the top 10, this guy is a master at that. I mean, I'm still disappointed that I didn't bet that outright a couple of years ago on him in the 500. But for him to be 6,500 starting 11th, and he's less than 2-1, or you'll see in the top 10 market, like he's right in that medium range of top 10 finishers, which is a good indication. Like that's where the expectation is for him.
Yeah, I feel like 7th, 8th is kind of where he will probably finish, with the ability to finish much, much higher.
Oh, yeah.
Almirola obviously looked really good. I love him at super speedways, but starting 4th is going to be really hard for me to get to on DraftKings. But the guy right behind him, you're a big fan. Dinger starting 29th, I think will be an easy click for us. I don't know how popular he will be just because he doesn't have a tremendous run of success, but had some good run in the Xfinity Series, obviously starting in a good spot, full-time ride, so he doesn't have to be as stressed out about losing his ride for the next week. A lot of things point to him making a lot of sense this week.
Yeah, and I think it's really imperative for people to realize that as they were talking about during the broadcast of the duels, the cars were impounded after qualifying, so they were not able to make any adjustments to their qualifying setup. And there were some cars that are set up for, as they were saying, for handling as opposed to just overall speed, which is the reason why Alex Bowman dropped all the way to the back during his duel, because his car could not maintain that driving style for that many laps. So you're going to see some changes with these guys. So like I almost feel the guys that perform terribly during the duels are going to look a lot better, and they're going to catch up to the guys who looked tremendous during those
especially
duels.
the ones that had teammates that performed well. They're going to learn a lot.
Yes.
They're going to be able to make slight tweaks that really make an impact.
Yep.
Below 6K, there's a lot of interesting names. Ty Gibbs starting 33rd, Justin Haley starting 28th. Corey LaJoie is just a little too far ahead.
You can't do it.
I love him at super speedways. Think he has some interesting potential, but yeah. Harrison Burton starting 19th is fine. Gilliland starting 14th once again, little too far ahead of where I'd kind of like to see him. But there is a lot of interesting names, and if you have to plug one or two of these guys in to make lineups work, it's really easy to get to them.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see what Justin Haley's ownership comes in at this year, because we talked about this when we did the Daytona preview a little while ago. Last year, coming into this race, Justin Haley was the talk of the town. I mean, people were smashing his top 10 odds. Everyone was putting him in their DK lineups.
Yeah, his outright went from like 50 to like 20.
Yeah. And he doesn't perform as well during practice and qualifying, and then the duels, colleague doesn't look fantastic. But I mean, you can't just go from that kind of hype to all of a sudden, oh no, just shoo him away. Like, this guy's still going to perform well. And at $5,600, he may be one of the sneaky, really good value guys running or starting near the back of the pack.
Yeah, I do have a little concern that people will be like needing one spot, and
he'll be the ad.
6K range, and he'll be an easy click. People are like, oh yeah, he was looking good last year. I have high expectations, a lot of stuff. So let's build some lineups, Brian. And I think we need to start with the one that we talked about. So we're gonna skip over Kyle Busch, but we're gonna put in Ross Chastain. We're gonna put in Bubba Wallace, and we're gonna put in William Byron.
Let's do it.
That's still plenty of money to spend. Obviously, once again, don't be afraid to leave thousands of dollars on the table. If you build a lineup that you like, that you think has genuine upside, do it. Like we saw last year, like people that did, like Cody Ware was what was he, 10th in DK points. Ty Dillon was 8th in DK points. Loading up on these guys is not a horrible plan. That obviously you don't have to. Like, you can, Ryan Blaney was great, Kyle Busch was great, Chase Briscoe was great. But yeah, so I guess we have 3 spots, and I mean there's a couple names that really jump out to me, but I want to see who's on the tip of your tongue as the next guy in.
Before we do that, I want you to scroll all the way down on the list of names for. Okay, so right there.
Oh, I guess we did have a couple of names that we didn't hit.
$4,800, Ty Dillon, starting 37th. If he can stay in the pack and stay in the draft early, I would almost guarantee he's finishing inside the top 30, quite possibly inside the top 20 here.
I mean, he started 26th, finished 11th, had 3 fastest laps. Like, he was, what was he? I think he was like eighth most DraftKings points last year. Like, he makes a ton of sense. And
like I talked about this, the number 77 Spire Motorsports car just has this luck thing going on at Daytona and super speedways. And seeing how well Corey LaJoie performed, they're going to go back to the garage, tinker with some things on the 77, because he didn't look great during the duel, but it was almost like because they know that they don't have the kind of money that the other teams do. They need to play it safe. They cannot risk crashing their car during almost a meaningless race. So they're going to go into the Daytona 500, be a lot more aggressive.
So there's 3 names for 2 spots for me. If there's any other names, feel free to shove them in. But I think the names are Eric Jones, Chase Briscoe, and probably,
I'll agree with you with Eric Jones. You won't have to
Okay.
twist my arm about that. We
Okay.
love him at Super Speedway. So let's put him in there, see where we're at. So he's got 10-3 now.
Oh yeah, we can. We can spend as little or as much as we want. We can go up and grab Ryan Blaney.
What if we put Denny?
We could start Denny.
I know we're not going to get any early lead laps.
That's not a problem. We're also avoiding Kyle Busch, so being a little more, adding a couple other chalky names, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. And this is a really strong lineup with 4 guys, maybe 5 guys that can legitimately win the race.
Yeah.
Save it. Let's build a new one. Let's go to NASCAR.
Second one from the left, yep. And just like we said, just to remind people, there was no doubt that we were going to go far too heavy on the Daytona 500, whether it's our betting cards or DK. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, brand new lineup. We'll build another lineup. Who's the first name you want to make sure gets in here?
All right, I think we both agree on him just in terms of what he could do and possibly win here. I think we start with Ryan Blaney. We go a little bit chalky on this one.
Okay, let's do it. I am going to shove Chase Briscoe in.
Okay, all right.
Let's see. What did he started 9th, finished 3rd last year? Was really strong. We're both optimistic on kind of his season-long outlook. I think he could perform really well, and obviously starting 30th, it's an easy way to see him climb even into the top 10 conversation.
All right, so sticking with the Ford thing here, I think we're going to go with Chase Briscoe's teammate, Ryan Preece, somebody we talked about well before he wound up qualifying 20th and performing extremely well during the duel.
I like it. I'm putting Eric Jones in. Easy click. Probably too easy, so maybe I shouldn't click so much, but starting 25th, I feel like he's a top 10 candidate, maybe top 5 candidate for sure. And then kind of, really has a chance to win the race. I think he's about 30-1 right now. So easy click. We have almost 10K per driver, so we can get aggressive if you want.
So I was going to say this is difficult but I'm going to add Bubba here. Yeah, starting 15th. I think there's a chance that him and Blaney work their way to the front. And because they're such good friends, we saw it during their duel, they will team up and push each other around the track if possible.
So 8,400 Martin Truex, really compelling. Austin Dillon, 8K, starting 27th, really compelling.
I saw a guy that I think that we talked about him, and he's 9,200. The Watermelon Man himself.
I mean, I have an outright on him, so I would be happy if he won the race. So there's a second lineup. Let's build one more. We can review the 3 that we have, and I'm sure between now and Sunday I'll build like 300 more. But I love doing it.
Well, you're gonna have to make up for my absence on DK since I didn't make any lineups before coming to Vegas. So
yep. Okay. So I'm gonna take the T here. I'm gonna go Michael McDowell, starting 11th, but he's 6,500, really easy to squeeze in. I think he has potential for a top 5 type finish. I think he's really strong, really consistent at a place where it's really hard to do that. So I'm happy to shove him in. Who would you like to make sure gets a home in here?
All right, I think because we haven't added him yet, I think he's in a pretty safe starting position. Let's go with Dinger, 6,100, starting 29th.
I like it. I think we get a little aggressive, Brian, and I think we load up on the back of the field and see what we can cobble together, even if it means leaving a few thousand left on the board.
Do it.
All right, I think we'll pass on Eric Jones just because we've got a lot of Eric Jones. but he is really compelling. I think we go Ty Gibbs starting 33rd. I think he can perform well. I think he has a chance to move up. And a top 20 finish is probably fine. I think he has the ability to do much better than that. Top 15, top 10 type finish. So 5,800, easy play.
All right, I think if we're staying towards the back here, like this might bite us in the ass, or it could pay off huge. But let's go with colleague teammate Justin Haley.
Do it. I love it. 5,600. All kinds of money to be spent, but that's okay.
Exactly. If we're gonna get wild, let's get wild here.
I will not get as Ricky Stenhouse wild. That's just a bridge too far.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Can't go that far. Briscoe starting 30th, 7,400. All right, Brian, you can put literally any driver in you want. Who do you want to put in there? I think Austin Dillon starting 27th makes sense. Martin Truex could make some sense. Tyler Reddick. We haven't done much Reddick. I don't know how I feel about him.
Yeah,
at Speedways.
Yeah, it's weird, especially in the new car. Like it's almost a feeling out period with him
And
on the new team.
We have the money, obviously, and we have a lot of unique pieces that Kyle Busch could make a hell of a lot of sense in this lineup.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's do it. All right. So we have 3 lineups. Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Eric Jones, Ty Dillon. Feels really safe. If you want to play that in more of a cash style, I think it makes sense. You could obviously find a way to, maybe do Kyle Busch if you feel more comfortable with him than maybe a Byron or something. But I love this lineup. Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Chastain, Briscoe, Priest, Jones is fun. A lot of upside, a lot of potential. I think 4 or 5 guys that can legitimately win. And then our final lineup, because we would go Kyle Busch for the chalk, and then we go Briscoe, McDowell, Dinger, Gibbs, and Haley. You'll love to see it. When we win $1 million, Brian, I will let you know. Let's review the card. Let's review the current odds, and then let's get the hell out of here. We'll give the people a best bet. Brian is in Vegas on Wi-Fi, so if he is freezing into oblivion every so often, just bear with us. He's along. You can hear him. His face is frozen. So I have 4 outrights as we sit here on Friday. Austin Cindric at 25, which has come cratering down. William Byron at 19, Eric Jones at 33, and Ross Chastain at 22, which I'm very happy with. I have 3 top 10s. Ty Dillon at 5-1, which thanks to Brian, that number has come cratering down. Martin Truex Jr. at 2-1, and Austin Dillon at plus 230. And then my favorite bet from the previous pod, Michael McDowell over Ricky Stenhouse at minus 114. I put 5 units on that. Let's see how confident I am. So I'm sure McDowell will crash in the first 5 minutes and make me regret every minute of that. But I love it right now. Brian has 3 outrights. The Busher at 40, Allmendinger at 50, and Ryan Blaney at 12, which of the favorites I think is probably my favorite. And one I'm really, really tempted to add. He has 3 top 10s, Ryan Preece, AJ Allmendinger, Ty Dillon, 2-1, 2.5-1, and 5-1. And then Dillon over Cindric at minus 104. We'll have to review the current odds and see if there is some room to take it the other way and still have a positive ROI, Brian. But let's look at the NASCAR odds as we sit here. Everything is done. Everything is finished. As always, if you like somebody, shop it. If you like Denny Hamlin and you have access to FanDuel and DraftKings, go get it at FanDuel where it is 14-1. Picking a winner in NASCAR is tough, especially at a super speedway. So
impossible.
Give yourself the best odds. Chase Elliott is basically your favorite across the board. Obviously, 12-1 everywhere, 13 at Bet Rivers if you have access. Logano is 10-1, 12-1, 16-1 at FanDuel. So once again, shop it. Ryan Blaney is just 12-1 everywhere, and I was hoping to get a better number, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Kyle Larson, 14 is your best number. Kyle Busch, despite starting at 36th, 18 is your best number. Caesar's still hanging at 12, so that's interesting. You can still get 18 on William Byron. Any of these numbers really jumping out? Anything you love, Brian, from these numbers, or should we keep tumbling down the board?
I mean, it's really interesting to see Logano still with a 16 hanging from FanDuel. It's almost like they didn't pay attention to anything that we saw with how fast Penske was. And I mean, we'll see it with Austin Cindric's number, how much that cratered. And then Ryan Blaney being, quite possibly the consensus favorite. There's no reason that number shouldn't be 12 or 13, not 16. So, I mean, if you like Logano, that's a great number to get in at.
100%. And it really shows, like, as much as you can like a driver and as much as you can think he can win, if the book has a lot of exposure to other names, they're gonna price people to get money in, so they don't get absolutely crushed. So
exactly,
if you like Logano, go get your guy. I think the next range is really interesting. There's still 22s at FanDuel for Chastain. I got a 20 on him, and I'm very happy with that. I think he has a really, really good chance to win on Sunday. Keselowski is still hanging around 20. Alex Bowman's odds cratered after he won the pole and then went flying back up after the duels. So he's anywhere from 20 to 26, depending. And that's always like, it's interesting because you can get pretty much any you want at different prices and still find value. Austin Cindric's 27 to 1.
Yep. I just confirmed. These are live lines on FanDuel, by the way.
I love it. Let me open up the bet tracker because I might hit that again because that is very interesting.
I mean, he's been incredible at supers in the Cup
Series.
I
know picking him at a back-to-back is, and I guess 25 and 27 really aren't that. But I mean, you get that is some serious points. So
well, and then the fact that it actually got longer after his performance in practice and qualifying is kind of befuddling to me. So I don't mind going back to it.
Christopher Bell getting a 30 on him, I think, is interesting. I'm happy to do that.
Honestly, dude, let's be real with people here. If you wanted to go to the sports book and just sprinkle like 1/10 of a unit on every single person, that's like 25 to 1 to 35 or 40 to 1 and longer, you have a pretty good chance of hitting, considering we've seen that happen numerous times, be a very small investment, and you've now given yourself like a 40% chance of hitting an outright on one of these.
Yeah, so if you're just for the love of the game, go fire on like a handful of these guys and see what you can pull together. But like I don't love a lot of these. Almirola at 30, I think is still fine, given where he's starting, given his success at super speedways. He's
guy posted at he's 33 to 1 at BetMGM right now.
Yeah, I mean that's great. Like I would love that. 40 to 1 on Chase Briscoe, I think is interesting.
I was gonna say that number, that's a bettable number on him. Now 30 to 1, I don't know if I could get there with him just with the lack of like success, but 40 to 1 is a number I would not mind hitting.
And unlike other tracks where starting in the back basically gives you almost no shot to win the race, you could start in the front, you could start in the back, and you have just as good a shot to end up in the front when it matters most. So don't be afraid to bet guys you really like just because they're farther back than you kind of had hoped for. So
all they got to do is stay on track.
Yeah. Like I'd rather bet Briscoe at 40 than Dylan at like 28 or 30.
Oh, for sure. Like I actually went back because there was a prop that I was considering. It was over or under 15 and a half cars to finish on the lead lap. And I think the average amount of cars to finish on the lead lap at Daytona over the last 6 races or something is like 14.8. So, I mean, that's just going to show you that there are so many wrecks at this particular track that if you could stay and avoid all that stuff, you have a shot.
Here. Priest at 28 or 30 is just simply too short. I found a 50 today, and I gobbled that up really quick.
Was that at one of our favorite offshores by any chance?
As we head offshore, that is a way to get some numbers like that. So as always, shop it, find the books you have access to, and make it happen.
Yeah, I
Eric
think
Jones at 35 is compelling. Obviously I got 33, so I'm not going to add it, but I would not fault anyone who goes for that 35.
Yeah, I'm actually going to add that. Just I always love sitting there betting on him for anything. So
and McDowell right behind him, getting a 40 on him, I think is really nice too.
So I love Michael McDowell. I don't mind people going to the well with him, but I mean, it's almost far-fetched to think that Michael McDowell would become a 2-time Daytona 500 winner, but we've seen crazier things.
Strides from him last year. Obviously, new crew chief. We'll see how that impacts things, but I'm optimistic on what he can be going into this season.
Yeah.
Beyond there, I don't really love any of the outrights. Like, I wouldn't mind going to top 5, top 10s on some of these guys and seeing if you can hit a winner. But
I was just gonna say, I think the only guy this far down the list that I'm willing to go to is Corey LaJoie, 100 to 1. I'm gonna add that, but it's literally gonna be a 1/10 of a unit play. Like, I mean, that's like a no lose situation. Yeah, you might lose whatever, $10, $100, or $1, depending on what your unit size is. But I mean, the payout is huge potentially, and he is really good at super speedways.
100%. He looked really good in the duels too. So, and another guy who tends to pop at super speedways. Let's head to the matchup and see if we can't find some value, because I think this is where we're going to have some fun. So shouts to DraftKings for my second head-to-head. I am going to take Ross Chastain at -105 over William Byron, because I think they're both incredibly interesting this week. I think Chastain has a little bit higher of an upside, and I'm getting a better number, so I am going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, matchups at super speedways are literally craps throws. I mean, anybody can hit. I wouldn't mind somebody betting even money on Tyler Reddick over Austin Cindric, no matter the fact that Austin Cindric seems to be much better than Reddick at these tracks. But one wreck and Reddick wins by default there.
And even as somebody who, I have some Austin Cindric outrights, and I'm very happy to have them. But if you're looking for an opportunity to maybe hedge a little bit in case he has a bad race, Austin Dillon -104, Tyler Reddick +100. Great ways to hedge a little bit, give yourself some safety, and keep that bankroll stacked so you can bet the sport each and every week. Now, if you're not looking for that, you're looking to just fire a few outrights and hope that you catch fire, well, then go for it. Christopher Bell over Alex Bowman. I don't love Bell at super speedways as much as maybe some other people, but he did look good in the duels, and he is -105 versus Alex Bowman, who obviously was great in qualifying, but has not always been the best super speedway racer. Plus, I'm getting a decent price. I will take that, especially because you look at, like, he's -112 FanDuel and then -109. I think that's Rivers. So, yeah, I think that's interesting.
Speaking of Bet Rivers, real quick, I just logged into their site. They have some matchups that aren't necessarily reflected on the Action Network thing. One of the ones that I'm actually going to add, when you see it on the Action Network, it's Austin Dillon versus Bubba Wallace, and Bubba is a -120 favorite over Austin Dillon, who's -110. You can get Austin Dillon at +107 to finish ahead of Bubba Wallace right now at Bet Rivers. And with their histories at super speedways and at Daytona, you cannot tell me that Austin Dillon isn't every bit as close to the same level of driver as Bubba Wallace is at super speedways. So getting +107 on that is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're basically the same guy. Like, they both have the ability to win. They both have the ability to crash on lap 2. And everything in between. So
yeah.
So Austin Dillon, because I'm going to
+107.
Plus, but
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me that a book would lay that, you know?
Rivers, you said?
Yeah, Bet Rivers.
Yeah. And it's all about the money they're taking, right? So they're gonna find ways to offset some of their exposure. Bubba over Kyle Busch, I think, is really nice at -104.
What? You could get Bubba's -104 against Busch?
Against Kyle Busch, yeah.
Man, the disrespect on Bubba's name.
It's just the money they're getting. Kyle Busch, I think, is gonna be sneaky really popular over the first few races until we see how he really performs. But I think people are optimistic on him returning to elite levels in the new car with the new team.
I guess, but damn,
And
like
we can sit here and try and take advantage of it. Maybe we'll be wrong, maybe not, but there is opportunity. Ryan Blaney versus Denny Hamlin -102. I will happily take that.
I would, dude. I so wish this was even versus even, and just for fun, I would max bet both and just come out even on the wager. Because the fact that those are so different on both sites just shows you that these two guys are quite possibly the favorites to win this weekend.
Yep. Larson plus 100 versus Logano. Yeah. All right, let's finish off the top 10, see if there's any value to be had here. Obviously, top 10s, these are good prices. Normally, these guys are -300 to win races, and but Daytona is its own animal, so you're kind of playing with fire a little bit. There could be some opportunity here. You find a few guys you like, you put $50 on all of them, and if you hit 3 out of 4, you have a nice winning week. So interesting opportunities.
Top tens are extremely difficult at super speedways, though, like you were saying. So
yeah,
don't
so
get
top
too
10s,
crazy.
I have Dylan at 230. I have Truex at 200 and Ty Dillon at 5-1, which is a nice number at this point. Eric Jones 175. I think it's interesting. Eric Almirola, I'm actually going to add to. Almirola plus 185 to T10.
Hold on. That does not seem right. I gotta double check that. So keep going.
Check it out. Make sure it's correct because I want to get the most accurate numbers.
It's definitely correct.
Okay. Austin Dillon shrank a little bit. Still 185 is decent. Briscoe at 210, I think, is interesting. I wish I could get Ricky Stenhouse to not top 10 or to not top 20.
How about Ricky Stenhouse to not finish?
Yeah,
like but that would probably be like -140 for the
McDowell plus 210 to top 10, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually going to add the McDowell top 10 because the dude has just been far too consistent. He's starting 11th. Like we said, yeah, that may not necessarily, be a good indicator as where they're going to finish at the end of the race. But the guy is just so good at these tracks, so consistent. And the fact that you're still getting 2-1 after the kind of performance that he shows time and time again is disrespectful.
Yep. I will take it as well. I just think it's a good number. That's at FanDuel. That is. I was trying to be a little more conservative with my betting card, but it's the 500.
What did we talk about? There was no way that we were going to be able to
just
avoid
keep
getting
the reins in. So
yeah.
I think I'm good.
I am going to sprinkle a little bit on Corey LaJoy, top 10 at 4-1.
I like it.
4-1. I mean,
too.
The number's not great, honestly. I would prefer it to be a little bit longer, but I mean, it's a super speedway. You can't expect it to get much higher than that. And he's just somebody that I think has a good shot to do that. So, and I want something to root for. I'm going to come out and admit it. Like, I want to root for something.
It's fun to bet. I'm really tempted to add one more outright. I'm not gonna. Ryan Blaney is the name. 12-1 is incredibly impelling. But I'm gonna hold off. So
You're not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it. If I do it, I'll tweet it out, but I don't think I'm gonna do it. So let's recap the cards, Brian. Give people your two best bets. The one from Wednesday, the one for today. I'll do the same, and then we'll get out of here. So you have outrights on Busher, Allmendinger, Blaney, Bubba, Eric Jones, and Corey LaJoy. You have top 10s on LaJoy, on Michael McDowell, on Ty Dillon, on AJ Allmendinger, and Ryan Preece. You have Dillon over Cindric and Dillon over Cindric again. You're running it back, huh?
Oh wait, no. It's Dillon over Bubba. Sorry.
Dillon over Bubba. That's right.
Yeah.
107. Good card, fun card, few outrights, few placements. What is your best bet as we sit here Friday night for the Daytona 500?
My best bet for the Daytona 500. Oh man. I'm gonna go with Ryan Preece top 10. You could still get it 2-1, 205-1. This guy, prior to losing his ride last year, was much better than Cole Custer, and I think he's already kind of shown that. SHR looked fantastic during speed weeks leading up to the race, and he looked great during the duel, jumping into that 41 car. I think Preece is somebody that's going to get some recognition early on this season, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more units to that play and just go 3 to get a little conservative on the first week.
Nothing says conservative like Ryan Preece top 10s. Outrights, Austin Cindric, William Byron, Eric Jones, Ross Chastain. I think Chastain anything 20-1 is amazing. I think Ryan Blaney at 12-1, if you want to bet a favorite, is probably my favorite. Top 10s, Ty Dillon, Martin Truex, Austin Dillon, Eric Almirola, and Michael McDowell. My favorite bet from the whole week is McDowell over Stenhouse. Minus 114. I put 5 units on that. I also have Chastain over Byron, Bell over Bowman, Elliott over Larson, Dillon over Bubba, and Blaney over Hamlin, mostly because of the numbers. I think a lot of these guys are very, very similar. I'm getting I'm getting plus odds or very similar odds to do so. I have Chastain over Byron as well at minus 105. I put 2 units on that. But my favorite bet as we sit here today that is not McDowell over Stenhouse is Eric Almirola at a top 10 at 185. I am going to put 3 units on that. I think that I trust him to be like 7th. And I think another full season, I think he's going to be really strong. I think he's really good. So I like that quite a bit. If you are new to our show, we will be back to recap everything that was the 500, as well as get you set for Auto Club next week. We'll record Wednesday. It'll be in your feed Thursday. So if you want to make sure you have that as soon as it's available, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you turn on bell notifications. Also, let us know down in the comments who's your favorite, who's your pick to win the 500. Maybe not the best betting odds, maybe not your favorite bet from a value perspective, but who's winning on Sunday. So those are our picks. Those are our DraftKings picks. Win all the money on DraftKings. Win all the money at the sports books. Enjoy the hell out of the race. And we'll talk to you next time.